Veterans in Transition is sponsored by Data Solutions and Technology Incorporated, Digital Conventions, and the Village Connector Community.
Welcome to Veterans in Transition, where we promote the veteran community. Each episode, we profile a diverse group of women and men who have transitioned from their respective ranks in the military to civilian life, finding employment, entrepreneurship, or giving back to the community. Hi, I'm Rodwell Forbes, the former Garrison Command Sergeant Major of Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. The goal of this program is to share the transition experience and connect with you along this journey. First up, the Health and Human Services hosted Vet Force's third annual Veteran Small Business Forum. The forum focused on contracting opportunities for veteran business owners. Attendees were also able to meet with HHS small business specialists to discuss contract requirements.
HHS, Health and Human Services, and there are a lot of contracts to be had with this outfit. It is huge. It takes so much in. It's hard to, it's hard to grasp the range. It is the third largest federal agency after DoD and VA, and then HHS in terms of number of employees and dollar amounts. And it's traditionally been a hard nut to crack for veterans.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or as we refer to it as HHS, annually hosts the Vet Force meeting. So the Vet Force meets once a month, and their meetings are hosted by a federal agency. We allow the veterans to come in and sit and meet with the HHS small business specialist to discuss their business capabilities and how they can support the HHS mission. Do your homework before you come and you meet with us. Ensure that you understand the mission. I don't think that there's any group out here who knows and understands mission better than veteran-owned small businesses. And that's what federal agencies are looking for from you. We're looking for companies who can support our mission. I always recommend that they start with the budget in brief, which is the document where all agencies have told Congress that that is where they are going to establish their priorities. Start there. USA Spending can give you a lot of just free data. You don't have to pay anyone to do the homework for you. Respond to our sources sought, all of the market research, respond to our solicitations, and just show up, come out, just as they're doing today. Meet with us, let us know that you're here, share with us your capabilities, and also making sure that you understand the regulations and the laws that govern your respective programs.
Virginia's outstanding veteran-owned small business of the year is Scout Comms, a certified B Corporation. Scout Comms is the nation's leading communications advocacy firm dedicated to providing services that support veterans and military families.
I really appreciate this award and the honor. And it means the world to me to be recognized by my peers. I really want to start off with Brian Baker, especially. Brian runs the Veterans Organization, our Small Business Development Center down at the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg. He sucked me into his veteran-owned business executive roundtable, which has been just a real revelation to me as a leader. The thing about it, I think most of you know as business leaders, it's a little lonely sometimes, right? Being the boss, being a startup, my wife's here with me. And we started in our basement. I got fired my first job after the Army. I deserved it. Excuse me, I quit. Depends who you talk to. However, like a lot of us, I lasted about 11 months of my first job, just wasn't a good fit. And I found myself in the middle of a recession, not able to find work, came home from an interview, said to my wife, you know what, honey, the phone's not going to ring. We're going to start our own company. She's like, great, what are you going to call us? I said, Scout Comms. I used to be a scout, do comms, Scout Comms, it's genius. She goes, great, go get a license. And so she carved out a space in our basement, and 5 years later, we have about 7 employees. Ironically, we're still in the basement, but it's a colonial mansion now of of an office space down in Fredericksburg. But it can be a very lonely business, being the boss and building something from scratch. And what Brian did and has led and has created for me especially is an opportunity to sit down with fellow business leaders, fellow veterans especially, and just kind of hash things out and have that honest conversation that says, yeah, I did this wrong. What was I thinking? Like, dude, you're an idiot. Don't do that. or share our best practices among us. And if you don't have that kind of a circle of mentorship and friendship and connections, I really can't emphasize enough to find one, start one, build one, join ours in Fredericksburg, whatever it may be, because I think it's an invaluable part of my life and the success I've had is the amount of people who paid forward their success and paid it forward to me. And I appreciate Brian, I appreciate Crystal and their patience. Lastly, I call myself a B Corp evangelist. If you're not familiar with the Benefit Corporation movement, Brian's shaking his head because I always talk about B Corps. I stumbled onto the B Corp movement. Many of us who are veterans, we served. I started off at West Point, the idea of duty on our country, the idea of giving back to your nation. And many of us leave the service, and I think you sort of lose that sense of service and giving. And when I started Scout Comms off, we were a traditional PR firm. We were doing a little bit of defense work and others. But more of my work became veterans focused between the Home Depot Foundation, an amazing client, Prudential, GE, TAPS, these wonderful organizations that came to us. I woke up one day and all my work was focused on veterans organizations. And then I said, well, what is Scout Comms? Who are we as a company? And I discovered this social enterprise idea and the idea that a for-profit business can be a force for good, that there's this missing middle. There's the government doing their thing, as the Congressman mentioned, with the VA doing their thing. You've got big corporations doing their thing. You've got nonprofits, but somewhere in the middle, there's a missing gap as they come together. And for me, the Benefit Corporation movement fills that gap. The idea that my company places our social mission at the same level as our profits. And so we actually are, it's tricky because you go to Virginia and you register as a benefit corporation, then you have to report like a public company, which makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And then the certification process is a little bit painful. There's only 1,600 certified benefit corporations in the world. We were 1,300. And like I said, only the third in the world focused on veterans, because I believe there is this missing opportunity to bring together the best practices of corporate world, apply them to our nonprofit partners, our corporate giving partners, allow them to do good things and make a difference, and then facilitate that through my firm. And then with our success, pay that back to our community. We have a very strict rule at Scout Comms, only 2 pro bono clients. I currently have 5 because I stuck at red lines, put my foot down, and usually it lands on my other foot. So we are always constantly trying to find ways we can give back. If it's free pro bono work, if it's a little bit of a donation where I can afford it, where it's our time and our effort, that matters. So I would really urge you, I'm not supposed to make a speech, right? to if you're thinking about it, if you feel like there's something missing, that you feel like your company's giving back already, that you're doing that work, your employees are volunteering, you're doing amazing things, look at the Benefit Corporation movement. Make a statement, make a firm statement that we're a different kind of company. We're transparent, we're social, we're making a difference. Find your social mission and do it. So I won't speak anymore. Thank you for this wonderful award, and it's humbling to be honored among such amazing business leaders in the state, and I appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Discovering opportunities for your company can present many challenges, with finding those that are the right fit and selecting opportunities that align to your strategic business development plan. Knowing how to focus your efforts is essential in developing an effective pipeline. Are you successfully planning your pipeline with goals or opportunities that will be delivered throughout the year? Are you conducting meaningful research on the opportunity? Have opportunities been properly vetted? Bottom line, you should be focused in the agencies you're targeting. Defining which agencies you're pursuing is key, and it all starts with having a solid pipeline. Otherwise, you're just chasing the dream of success.
Correspondent Tiffany Donaldson had a chance to speak with National Veteran Small Business Coalition Executive Director Scott Denniston on how the NVSBC helped veteran business owners become successful in the federal marketplace.
How can the NVSBC help a small business veteran own get going in the federal marketplace?
We do that a number of ways. First off, tonight is an example. We have a boot camp. And our boot camps we have here in Washington once a month. We've got a board of advisors that will identify topics of interest to veteran-owned small businesses that want to work in the federal market space. So then what we do is we bring speakers in, and we'll do what we call a boot camp, which is basically a training program. After that's over, then we do a networking, an event, and a dinner. We also have a monthly newsletter called First Call that we send to members, where we identify topics of interest to the veteran small business community to keep them informed that way. We also do a national training conference that we call Vets in the Year. So as an example, next year will be Vet 17, and that's going to be the middle of June in Norfolk, Virginia.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Kingdomware decision and your involvement with it?
In June of this year, the court decided 8-0, it was a unanimous decision, that the VA had gotten the interpretation of the Vets First wrong and said, no, as we read the law applies to everything that the VA is going to buy. So now VA is in, I would say, a state of turmoil, trying to figure out how to implement this. Now, how we were involved is we filed one of the very first, what's called an amicus brief with the Supreme Court, which is a brief that you file in support of a claimant. So, of course, we supported Kingdomware, and what was interesting about that was after we did, the American Legion came on board. By the time we were done, there was a majority of congressional people who had filed briefs on behalf of Kingdomware. So it was really almost an overwhelming response from the veteran business community that I think helped the Supreme Court make that decision that they did.
And tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us about your military service?
I was drafted. I graduated from college and I was going to law school, got my draft notice, and so went and talked to the recruiters, and ended up enlisted for 3 years in the Army. And I did my basic training and my AIT at Fort Knox, which was the feeder system at that time for enlisted personnel in the Army to work at the Pentagon. And my degree was economics. The Army had a need for 3 accountants at the Pentagon to be statisticians in the personnel shop, and they could only find 2 people with accounting degrees. So I'll never forget, the personnel sergeant says, "Did you ever have an accounting class?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Good, you're my statistician." So I spent the rest of my time at the Pentagon in what was called Combined Arms. So this office managed all enlisted personnel in the Army in infantry, armor, and artillery. And my job was to keep track of where we assigned people and where we had the gaps that needed to be filled. This is a good time to be a veteran, and the reason I say that is there's a lot of resources available to help you make that transition. And one of the most difficult things, particularly if you're in the combined arms world of the services, is trying to figure out where the skills that you have grown in the military apply to the civilian world. And I think we all have a tendency to look at those too narrowly when we're looking at ourselves. And you don't even think about some of the things that you have gotten good at in the military. As an example, one of the things that I did at VA that is an amazing success today was working with the International Franchise Association to do a program called VetFran. Franchisors, if you're going to be successful, they tell you that franchising is the most successful way, percentage-wise, to run a business in the United States. You've got a proven system. You've got to get up, get dressed, and implement it, right? What do we do in the military? You know, you get up, you get dressed, and you follow a system. The franchising world is just ripe for veterans because we know how to live in that kind of environment. And the same, in order to be successful in business, you've got to be very structured. What I would also say to veterans is don't limit what you think your world and your universe is, but you have to be realistic too. Because particularly with business, when I take on a new client who wants to get into the federal government, I tell them, I said, you know, the average from the time you start to market a federal agency to the time you get a contract and you actually have revenue coming in the door, the average is 2 years. Are you prepared for 2 years without a salary, okay, working 80 hours a week, okay, and basically being married to your business, because that's what a business is. So don't opening a business is not a panacea to everybody, and know what you're getting yourself into. But having said that, it's a great world out there because the whole world is so entrepreneurial today.
Vets Talk. What is that really? You may be asking yourself. It's a new monthly speaker series that allows veterans business owners, and resource providers the opportunity to tell their story.
So first of all, I'm not praying. And while those little voices in your head is wondering why I'm not saying anything, did you even pray for me? Because we're talking about vets in transition on tonight and Vets Talk. And so we're going to talk. I'm going to talk to you. They told me something like a TEDx. I said, well, you're going to get the TED Extra. Because the thing about transition is you cannot successfully transition if you stuck in your past. So when I took the mic and you just expected me to start talking and being excited and telling you who I am and I'm excited to be here, it's because you've experienced that before. And if I had more time, I would have took a lot longer and made you feel real uncomfortable. Something about silence, people don't know how to handle that. But it gives you great thoughts when you do something different and you have another expectation. Because the reality for us veterans that are in the room sounds like this. You were on active duty, and then you weren't. That's your transition. You were getting BAH, and then you were not. And I got problems with that. I said, if I divorced the Army, I can stand before any judge and say I have become accustomed to a lifestyle. I got problems with that. Don't you think it's a connection between homeless veterans and no BAH? But I had to move beyond that. And so we're vets who have transitioned. And the beautiful thing about that is, on this side, we were told where to be, what to wear, how long to stay. Pay never stopped. But on this side, you have to be the leader of your own self. You have to tell your own self what to do. But the beautiful thing is that on this side, we were fully equipped to do that. But ironically, we forget that. So when I'm going to talk to you, I might ask you to talk back because that's what we're trained to do. We're trained, Command Sergeant Major, to follow instructions. We're trained to be obedient. We're trained to be team players. We're trained to have initiative. But the most important thing is we're trained to succeed. Nobody shows up anywhere like, I'm just going to fail. This is a new assignment. I don't know these people. This is a new place. I don't know where to go. I'm going to fail. You're not trained for that. But something happens when we got out. We got around people who do one thing the same way at the same time with the same people for years. And then you walk into that world and they're looking at you like, who are you? I've been doing the same thing for 30 years with the same people in the same place, and I do it well. And it took me 30 years to get here. It should at least take you 20. We don't know nothing about that. So now, in our veteran mentality, we have to be the same people who were told what to do that tell ourselves. But the beautiful thing is, you're not alone. You're trained to use the buddy system. We got the Army in the house. And for those of you, when I said BAH, it's basic allowance for housing. If you're not sure, I still got issues about that. We're trained for the buddy system. And so the buddy system tells you, I'm not alone. So if I don't have it, somebody else does. If I've never been there, it's people there already. Nobody goes to war expecting to die. We don't show up, Lord, it's the end, it's over. You don't do that consciously. You can see it all around you. Those of you who have deployed, you can see it all around you. But what the military do, what do? We clean it up like nothing never happened because we want to take that memory away and allow you to look forward. So when you transition from active duty, you woke up, you became a veteran. So long as that transition is transition, it's a process. It's something we have to go through. You're going to have to go through it. But when you recognize not only did I bring the federal government on this side with me, I brought state, as you just heard, local, nonprofits. I am open to do whatever it is I am supposed to do. But if you don't talk to yourself, you're not going to do that. You know why? Because money is a pimp. Money says, you used to get me all the time. What you going to do now? What you going to do now? And if you don't know who you are, you're going to run right behind it. And it's going to have you in civilian clothes now, looking just like everybody else, when we're equipped to do so much more. And the reason it's a beautiful thing to know that is because we who are veterans have done things that many civilians have not and will not do. They think we got it going on. To us, it's a job. But for them, they think we got it going on. And you know why? Because the news always reports negative information. It doesn't tell them about all of the families that we make with unconditional love, all of the places that we go in and clean up. It doesn't talk about the hospitals that we build and the schools that we build and the people that we help. It only reports negative information. So when they hear veteran, they're automatically thinking, they're great, because I've never done that. And we did it by choice. So now as we choose to move forward, our vision has to be greater than our past. And so as veterans, we do have to talk. We do. We have something in common, and it's called perseverance. We can go into the unknown and make it known to everybody. We can take sand and build up cities. We're able to do that. That's the best gift that we have by being veterans. It's called faith. I'm a faith person, so I can see faith a mile away. Because you step out sight unseen. And you don't even care about the results because you know they're going to be good. Because somebody else have done it before you. And if they haven't done it, you get to make it new, and they don't know what you're doing anyway, so you can get an award for doing something that's never been done before. We're equipped to do nothing but succeed. As much rank as I thought I had, as powerful as I was, I know what it feels like to be out and nobody knows you, nobody's saluting you. You don't have to be nowhere. And your BAH stopped. It went to 0. And let me tell you why I keep saying that, because mine was over $3,200 a month, and it went to 0 in the nation's capital. And then they wonder why. So I could have been that person sitting there like, what I'm supposed to do? And so on this side, it's our time to shine. Now is our time to be the empowerment of this country. Because everybody in here, if you served, you still serving. Somebody break down on the side of the road in a rain store, you better know it's a military person that's going to stop to help them. We're conditioned to love. That's what makes us so powerful, because we're conditioned to love unconditionally. Whether you use that word or not, that's exactly what it is. You're selfless servants. And I pray that after today, you continue to be servant leaders who know how to lead me, who knows how to grab somebody else and lead them as well, and take advantage of the federal government that came with us on this side and all the civilians who love them some veterans. They want to help us. They do. If you don't know it, they do. They want to help us. Because they just assume that we've had it so bad. And some have. But even though that's still your past. It has no authority over your future. None. And when you know that, and you become the prophet over your own destiny, it's a good thing. And so as the people come in, and the resource people come in, and they sharing stuff with us, take advantage of it. If you know you want to go back to school, go talk a hole in that girl from Webster. Go talk a hole in her head. How can you help me out? Don't be ashamed, because they really want to help us, because we know how to love, and love is reciprocal. The more you love, the more people want to love you. The more you talk about problems, the more they're going to grow. So we're the solution. And so I pray on today that I have said something to make you actually see yourself doing what it is you're supposed to do. Thank you for your time.
And now, I would like to drop a dime on you. D, we are driven to provide relative and pertinent information to you, our transitioning service member. I is for integration. We will connect with you by using multiple media resources such as Twitter, Facebook, blogs, etc. M, we are motivated to help your transition to be a positive experience. And E is for expectation, to help you set realistic goals for your future endeavors. And in closing, I would like to leave you with these parting words. The time is now for you to run into your destiny. What are you waiting for?